to start putting words to something I've been, marinating on for a while. And I figured I'd start this discussion here. It is something I'd like to talk about publicly one day. And I'm very open to other perspectives. I was thinking, this has nothing to do with the conversation I want to get into, but I was thinking about how it's so difficult to have a discussion online these days, because people feel the need to defend and attack immediately, when in all actuality you could probably get people to understand your perspective. They just maybe haven't considered it yet. So I just want to start by saying I'm very open to being wrong about some of these things, but I've noticed lately how certain marketing tactics that we see with big companies or MLMs, or just typical stuff that isn't small business herbal products, some of those marketing tactics have been finding their way into herbalism, and it gives me this horrible gut reaction of no, and it just feels like bastardizing something so special and so community driven. And the biggest things let me start by saying some things I really want to say before I even get into this, which is the most important remedy is the one you have on hand. And I saw an herb friend of mine say that recently, Flora Wellness, and it's so freaking true. All my close friends have most of our products, but I'll get a call or a text sometimes that's like, hey, look at this rash, or hey, I have this thing going on. What do you recommend? And before I recommend anything, I say, well, which of our products do you have on hand? Do you have this salve? Do you have this spray, etc.? Because more times than not, most herbal products are pretty multifunctional. An example I have here is people have the black drawing salve, and they think that the only use for that salve is to draw things out, splinters, ingrown hairs, etc. But there are really incredible antimicrobial herbs and saps in that salve that are in our all-purpose salve. And if that's the only salve you have on hand, that's fine. Anyways, before I get on a tangent here, the most important remedy is the one you have on hand. I want to drive that home. I saw something the other day that I think was posted with good intentions. I don't think that they meant it to come off the way it did. But it was an herbalist saying, had a little headline, attention-grabbing graphic before they got into the meat of what they were saying. And it said, what is a reishi baby and how can I get one? And my immediate knee-jerk reaction was oh, gross. And I said it out loud to the person that I was with, because I wanted to comment on it and talk about it. And before I could even get out what I wanted to say, I was with a friend that has a 1-year-old. And she was like, wow, as soon as you said that, I felt like I did something wrong by not taking reishi while I was pregnant. And I immediately thought, oh, I'll do it next time. Next time I have a baby, I'll make sure I do that. And she was talking about how she feels that way a lot. And that brings up another very good point of what I want to say, which is that marketing towards women is always leveraging our vulnerabilities against us. Marketing towards mothers is downright awful, because mothers are in such a vulnerable place of wanting to make sure that they're making all the right decisions, they're doing all the right things, and we're made to feel like we're doing something wrong no matter what. And so when you market towards a mother, the easiest thing you can do is make them feel like they did something wrong, and you have the solution and they don't. And the only way for them to fix it is to buy that solution that you have. It kills me. It freaking kills me. And Mary, my assistant, is pregnant, and she was working on her registry the other day and was going through this same situation where she was researching all the stuff, trying to figure out what was the most important thing to add to her registry. And the more she dug into it all and looked at all the reviews and all the marketing and all the stuff, she literally made herself sick. She actually came into work late the next day. She said she was having a meltdown and, had to confide in her partner, and was just really going through it because it was such an overwhelming amount of information. And that is exactly where big companies want you to be, because they want you to think that they have the solution. and that you're not capable of coming up with a solution. And it hurts my heart so much. And so to dissect this post, what is a reishi baby and how can you get one? Another herbalist I follow was actually not disagreeing with this post. They just happened to make this comment that also had a lot to do with, I think, that knee-jerk reaction I had, where she was like, cannabis often offers the same thing, but you don't see people going around saying, what is a weed baby and how can I get one? And I was so glad that she said that, because it brings up such an important point. One of the first things that it made me think of is how it, in the 80s, like referring to babies that were growing in a mother that was abusing a substance were often labeled as blank babies. And that's really gross. That's wrong. And so to see this sort of twisted into a good thing felt weird. And it's just interesting. So my biggest take when reading this information, which was babies that are born when mothers take reishi are more likely to have calm demeanors and not cry a lot and sleep well and be great babies. This felt weird to me because there are so many herbs that could offer that same result. And when we get stuck into marketing one herb, it just feels weird. Like, ashwagandha is a great example of an herb that got totally commodified and marketing went crazy and all these big corporations got their hands on it and were like, people want ashwagandha. Guess what? There are so many adaptogen herbs just like ashwagandha that offer the same freaking thing. But everyone wanted ashwagandha because everyone was marketing ashwagandha. And so that was my takeaway from that post, is like, well, yeah, I mean, mothers could take passion flower and it would also do that. Like, there's so many things, right? Shatavari, like a lot of options. And all the comments on this post were mothers feeling like they had done something wrong. Mothers saying, oh, I'll try that next time. Or, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you said this. I'm going to totally do this. Like, I want a reishi baby. And it also just felt like, what a bizarre way to talk about babies. I didn't get to finish my video yesterday, and I want to make sure and say there's no hate to this creator slash herbalist. I really like this person a lot, and I don't think this was their intentions, but it felt like a very strange way to talk about a baby, and it also put mothers in a weird position. And I want to challenge people, especially aspiring business owners, people new to herbalism that aren't quite making their remedies yet and are looking to other herbalists. I just want to challenge you to question people, because all too often we don't, right? We see someone speaking confidently and we want to just believe them instead of having to do all the research and all the stuff. And this can be really hard in the herbalism realm, because a lot of herbalism has to do with your perspective. Plants are insanely complex. I say that all the time. There is no black or white answer when it comes to plants. And therefore, you may hear several opinions about one thing. In fact, something in that realm that I'm going to be talking about in the next week or two is elderberry. Some herbalists say it's fine to enjoy elderberry juice raw. Some say it has to be cooked for a long time. Some say only use the dried berries. Some say only use fresh berries. Some say the seeds are fine. Some don't. And the truth is, all of those answers are accurate. Depending on the person. And I don't want to jump into that conversation because it's a whole video's worth. But technically, they're all right, because you have to have nuance when it comes to herbs. It's more about the dose and the person that's taking it. So yeah, I just wanted to wrap that up there and just question these marketing tactics that are coming into herbalism as a way to make sure that we don't perpetuate harm, because I think these things are harmful, and that might sound drastic to some people, but I don't think it is. And it's slip into that. I have almost forgotten how incredibly expensive it is to get into herbalism before you have a business, because once you have a business, and the reason a lot of us start businesses is because you're spending so much money on equipment and ingredients and time that you're like, well, shoot, I might as well sell it and like try to get some of this back, especially because it's very hard to find just 1 ounce of an herb or make just enough tincture for one small bottle. It's a lot easier and seems cheaper in the beginning to go big. I kind of forgot where I was going with that. A friend of mine recently that's very new to owning a business and new to herbalism, she was asking me all these questions, and I finally got to the point where I was like, listen, you need to experiment. Like, you need to fail, you need to experiment, or you're never going to learn. Like, if I just tell you how to do every little thing, you're not going to really understand the why. And she was like, I know, you're right. It's just, gosh, it's so expensive. It's like, if I make a mistake on this big batch, I lose a lot of money. And I honestly forgot that that is very true. And when I was experimenting, it was a little different. I was only working with wild herbs that were growing near me at first. And I was using pint-sized jars. And, you know, I'd give them to friends, family, and I'd only work with like 1 herb at a time. And that's one of the reasons I always say I am so grateful that I had a molasses slow start. I had a very slow start. Whereas this person, on the other hand, jumped into owning a business. I am very glad that I didn't do that. And this is one of those reasons. Experimentation, I owe my whole business to that. And I can't imagine having not gone through that. So, don't remember why I started talking about this, but I'm going to wrap it up there.